Rehabilitation. It's an acronym. Thank you. Palante Harlem started in 2006 with the help of Assembly Member Keith Wright. And had it not been because of his help, we would not be where we are today. We would not be a community-based organization, and we certainly not be able to help you. So can you please give a big round of applause to Assembly Member Keith Wright? Thank you so much for putting this together, sir. I'd also like to acknowledge my very good friend and District Leader Maria Luna and her wonderful sister Juana Luna. Can you please give them a big round of applause? You know, the reason why we put together this meeting is because I spoke to Mr. Wright, I spoke to Keith, and I said, Keith, we really need to help the tenants living in the TIL program. It's time. So he said, put it together. And I said, okay. And we are just completely thankful of the panel that actually said, you know what, I'll come in and help. And with that, we have Anne-Marie Hendrickson, Mr. Matthew Nelson, Wayne Benjamin, and again, guys, can I please give a big round of applause? I like to talk, so now I'm going to shut up, and I'm going to just hand over the microphone to Keith Wright.
Thank you, Elsie. Good evening, everyone. I have a little bit of a cold, so if my voice sounds a little raspy or rough, please forgive me. I want to thank Palante for all of the work that they do. They do such good work in getting all of us out here and making sure that we have a good crowd to have this transparent discussion. You know, this discussion is way overdue. Way overdue. If you look up on the monitor here, you see a lot of the TIL buildings that are in northern Manhattan, and certainly I think it's a lot of us live in these buildings, and we want to have a good, frank discussion, good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, it all has to come out tonight. If we don't come out tonight, it won't come out. So I want to thank New York State Homes and Community Renewal. You see a house up there, right? You see a house up there? Okay. Homes and Community Renewal. I want to thank the West Harlem Development Corporation, New York City HPD. I want to thank the Furman Center and certainly the Harlem Community Development Corporation for putting this all together and helping Palante and all of us put this together. You know, it's been about a year and a half since I was named chair of the New York State Assembly's Standing Committee on Housing. And it's probably one of the most important committee assignments that I've ever had. Housing is quite frankly one of the most important issues that is facing all of us here in the city of New York. If we don't have a decent, affordable place to live, quite frankly, there are other folks that want to live where we live. And they want to knock us out. And they want to live because, you know, so we have to preserve what we have. And quite frankly, I'm very much in support of Mayor de Blasio's plan to create or preserve over 200,000 pieces of affordable housing in the city of New York, because it's something that we definitely need. So I'm not going to talk too long. We have the panel here this evening. We have the experts, all of the folks that you need to talk to, all of the folks that will be giving you information. They are here tonight. We are up here in Washington Heights because there's a dire need up here in Washington Heights as well, not only in Washington Heights but throughout the city. But we thought that, and this is not a political rally, we're here to get information and to give information. Our TIL programs are probably some of the most valuable pieces of property that we have. Probably some of the most valuable pieces of property that we have. And we need to know what to do in order that we can hold on to these pieces of property, and that we will not only have a place to live today, but for the next generation and the next generation to come. So I want to say thank you again to Palante. Palante, probably the premier housing group that I've ever worked with, and certainly you will think the same thing. If you don't know now, you'll know later. So with that, I want to give it to our brother Kofi, who's head of our West Harlem Development Corporation. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody, and let's give a big hand to Assemblyman Wright. As he said, he's a little bit under the weather, so if you see him sliding down the pathway, don't run after him. Let him. Okay, so he can get some rest for today. You heard when Assemblyman Wright was given the credits, he mentioned the Fairman Center, and they were supposed to be here to give this piece of presentation about giving us the state of TIL, the TIL buildings, which stands for Tenant Interim Lease Program, Tenant Interim Lease Program. So you see at the bottom, can you go down, Gabriel, that it was supposed to be given by Max. And I'm not Max, I'm Kofi, so we'll try and do this just fine. Okay, so what we have, okay, so what the Fairman Center is telling us is that citywide, as you can see by how the red line is going up, since 2005, almost 10 years. As we all know, because we pay it, our gross rent has been going up year after year after year. Even when the economy supposedly was taking a dip in 2008, the rent was still going up. That didn't take a dip. It never went to sleep. Next slide. But while the rent is going up, go back. While the rent is going up, our pockets have been getting shallower. See, the rents are getting deeper, but our pockets are getting shallower. The median income is going down while the rent is going up. And what is not here is that increasingly more we are spending, what it means is that we are spending more of our hard-earned money on just rent alone, exceeding 40% in many instances. And we're here to talk about where the TILs are concentrated. And if you look citywide, they are saying that there are 160 TIL buildings with about almost 3,000 units. And you see where the majority of them are. The majority of them are precisely represented by the people in this room. Central Harlem, CD9, Washington Heights right here. And there's another side to the TIL program, which is the HCDCs, okay, the HFDCs. Housing Development Fund Corporation, let me say it right. There are too many acronyms. The Housing Development Fund Corporations, and those you could almost multiply by at least 3 times what these are. Whatever you see at TIL, the other side is the Housing Development Fund Corporation, the HDFCs. That also go with this. So we have our work cut out for us to begin to, as Assemblyman Wright said, have that conversation about the TILs and the HDFCs, because if we don't, we'll be living in substandard housing. That's one bad side of it. And the other side is others will see the opportunities to buy us out. And that's really what we are facing. So this shows you in dollars and cents where our gross rent is going up, where our median, where the median gross rent is really not rising much, but the gross rent is rising. And you see this interesting phenomenon. between 2005 and 2012, over a 7-year period, New York City-wide, when you look at recent movers and rental units have pretty much plateaued. They haven't moved much. But when you get to Central Harlem as an example, because this phenomenon is all over Northern Northern Manhattan, you see that new renters are paying much more, almost double. Why is that? Well, that is an indication of what we like to call in some quarters gentrification. New monies moving in that have higher median incomes, willing to pay more to throw those who have been there for generations out. Okay? So this gets right to it. And this gives you a sense of comparing Central Harlem as an example of Harlem and the whole of New York City, how much we need assistance. Because when you look at the market rate for New York City as a whole, these are people who say they don't need any government help. They can go in the market rate. It's about 40%. But when you come here to our neighborhood, it's 16%, meaning that we need a lot of help with these kinds of programs in order to be able to afford a decent housing. So we cannot compare ourselves here. As when you hear that the real estate market is booming over here. And people here need help. So if they don't get the help and they have to be kicked out, then the rest is somewhere there in the street, which we don't want. And you see it all right here. You see how over the last 10 years, the stock of market rentals have really grown, increased by about 200,000 right here, because you have people who have the incomes to afford them. And our experts are going to tell us how, when tills are not taken care of, when the AGFCs are not taken care of, and they go to market, some of these things happen. And you begin to see that the subsidized units reduce, and then the market stock goes up, which means that the people in this room go nowhere or somewhere else, but not Harlem. The places where they have lived for years and years and years, and we don't want that. So with that, I'm going to introduce our panelists, and they will have all the expert information to share with us. And I'll ask them to get into a little bit of an exchange, and then we'll open it up for all of you to shoot your questions at them. And hopefully they will give you back some pretty good answers. And I want to see how many answers he's got. And then we have from HPD, who has promised, this lady has promised, because we made her swear this evening, that should be transparent and forthright and hide nothing at all from anybody who has any questions about and from HPD. So please let us welcome Anne-Marie Hendrickson, the Deputy Commissioner of the Office of Asset and Property Management. That's a pretty big title, Office of Asset Management, because the tills and the HDFCs are all assets. So that means she is the big landlord, the biggest of them all. Okay? So we got to really go after her. And we have Matthew Nelson, who is from the Office of Community Renewal from Homes and Community Renewal, the President, Matthew, welcome. And so you're always doing what we call two-man, two-person. Oh, where is Robert? There he is. Okay, it is our great pleasure. Come on forward here.
No, stay back here.
Say hello. Come and say hello, Robert.
Sophie didn't do that right. We have with us City Councilman Robert Jackson, like to come say.
Hi everyone. I'm just so happy to see so many people out discussing this extremely important information. And obviously, if you talk about TILs and HDFC co-ops, this is very, very important. Because you know one thing, I tell you quite frankly, I've had conversations with tenants. And I was talking to them like they're my brother or my sister, a family member. You know why? Because they were going to lose their building. And you know, where I grew up, you just tell it like it is. I said, you gotta go to the classes. You have to manage your books. Even if you and your brother next door, your brother lost his job, and he couldn't pay his rent, and you're the president of the HDFC co-op, you gotta take him to court to evict him. Even if he has to move in with you. Because if not, you're not doing your job. You're not looking at the benefit of all the other shareholders that live in the building. Let's get real. This is a business. It's a business of HDFCs for low and moderate income families. And if you lose that opportunity, you never get it back. God bless you all.
Talking about telling it like it is, right? So, with that, Robert has set the stage for us. And Elsia, where's Elsia? We need you to take your seat, please. Okay. So, from my left, we will start with Anne-Marie to give us no more than a 5-minute opening remark from her vantage point at HPD about the whole subjects of TILs and ADFCs.
Good evening, everyone.
Yo lo había visto por otro que tenía gorra y estaba todo sucio, no me iba a bañar.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Henderson, and as Kofi said, I have a
Ustedes tienen una cámara, bro.
and I consider myself to be jack of all trades and master of none. So I am now the Deputy Commissioner of the Office of Asset Property
Tenemos que
Management.
editarlos.
Many people in this room probably remember that I ran the TIL program and was responsible for selling those buildings to become HDFC co-ops. The structure at HB has changed somewhat, and while I'm not really responsible for the sale of the buildings, I still manage the TIL portfolio while the buildings are in city ownership and are going through their training and trying to understand and learn how to become well-managed HDFC co-ops. My colleague, who many of you probably met, who no longer works at HPD, Jackie Alexander, was responsible for what we call the Affordable Neighborhood Co-op Program. Okay, and what I'd like to talk a little bit about is the evolvement of TIL. Okay, when TIL first started, okay, back in the late 70s, it was a sweat equity program. The city did very little work to those buildings. The tenants did most of the work in those buildings, and many of those buildings are out and very, very successful as HDFC co-ops. The program has evolved over the years, and probably in the early 2000s, the buildings became, we began doing a full gut renovation of those buildings in city ownership. Okay, the buildings were sold fully renovated with no debt. Tenants bought them for $250. Where could you get a better deal? Okay, these were the best closings, and I see some of my staff in the room. Those were the best closings that we ever did at APD. The program is a great program and gives everyone the opportunity to become a homeowner, you know, which is something I know many people would love to achieve. So it was a great program and continues to be a great program. However, in 2008, the market crashed, many of you know that. And at that point, HPD suspended all of their homeownership programs. I know many people in this room have a question on why is it taking so long to move the pipeline? Okay, why there's so many buildings left languishing until and haven't been able to move on to that next step? Well, when that market crashed, again, all of the programs at HPD that did home ownership for the most part stopped. At around that same time, the federal government also came in with their sequestering, okay, and there was a loss of Section 8, which, as many people know, was a vital component to the TIL program and enabling tenants to be able to pay the maintenance on sale. So between those two things that occurred, it crippled the program. I'm happy to say that in 2011 and 2012, we, Jackie Alexander, myself, and many of our colleagues at HPD, we came up with a new model for the program. No longer do we do the renovation in city ownership. No longer does the city provide all of the subsidy for the program. The buildings are going to be sold, using private debt. The city's capital budget has shrunk in such a way that we needed to look at new ways to continue to get the buildings done, but not drain all of the city's resources. Okay, so we came up with this new model to blend what HPD has in terms of capital subsidy with private debt. We also, in the program, changed the selling price from $250 to $2,500. Again, that $250 price was set since the 70s. Okay, and we're now in the 2000s. Okay, so we thought that we needed to make that.
And as Kofi said, I'm the Director of Residential Commercial Development for Harlem Community Development Corporation, which is actually a state entity. HPD is city, Harlem CDC is part of the New York State Urban Development Corporation, and we're charged with, supporting community and economic development, basically in CBs 9, 10, 11, and 12, and I've lived actually up here in CB 12 for a little more than a quarter of a century. And I live in a low-income co-op, or what used to be a low-income co-op. I know lots of folks who do. Harlem CDC has worked with the city and not-for-profit developers and for-profit developers, since 1995 to renovate a lot of the vacant buildings that used to exist, that were in the city's portfolio, as well as the vacant land, and to renovate them and put them back on the market as affordable housing. And when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about housing that is affordable to, school teachers and to folks who work for the MTA. It's not market rate, cut by 10%, and called affordable. As part of our efforts with community and economic development and renovating those buildings, we've always had seminars to educate folks who are renters, who are going through the lottery process, to understand the steps involved in purchasing a home through the lottery, but also understanding the mortgage approval process and understanding what it means to own and operate, whether it's a co-op or a condo. Because in the buildings that we've been involved in, once it's finished, it is 100% owner occupied and controlled. You have no sponsor, you have no landlord, so you have to understand that you are the landlord. Whatever needs to be done in that building in the short term or in the long term is the collective responsibility of everyone who lives there. So we do that when there are particular projects that we are marketing, but we do that as a regular service. We run a home buyer and financial literacy series, which is broken into 4 parts, that starts with basic budgeting, goes into understanding credit, goes into understanding the mortgage underwriting process, and then explains to you the different types of mortgages that are out there, different types of closing costs and down payment assistance programs that are there. And we do that series at least 3 times a year. We're starting again in June 11th with that. We've also worked with Palante and others to do seminars that focus on particular issues, and last year we did a housing expo on Saturday, May 10th, with 3 parallel homebuyer education seminars, and one of those seminars focused just on issues for HDFC co-ops. And we've actually done, and that was 3 individual series in a row, we've done one-off seminars on that. I mean, there are issues of what are the roles and responsibilities of individual shareholders? What are the roles and responsibilities of the board? I mean, how do you deal with crisis management? You are in a co-op, not an individual owner of a deed, but you have shares in the corporation. That corporation is the owner. That corporation is responsible for everything you expect the landlord to do. When the building isn't run properly, when there are problems, it is not someone else's responsibility, it's the responsibility of the owners. And so how you navigate through those problems is something that's very important for you to understand your individual responsibility as well as the collective responsibility of the corporation. And when the corporation or the board isn't doing its job well, what is your recourse? I mean, it's not necessarily what you obviously think of, which is going to HPD or going to the Attorney General, because once it is fully owner occupied and that plan is effective, there are other things that you need to do. You have to follow your bylaws, you have to follow what's required by the law, you have to follow the certificate of incorporation. So our home buyer, homeowner education seminars are really focused on letting you know what your rights are, what your responsibilities are. And whether this is for a new condo or a co-op,
1 minute.
or an existing building where there are issues that are pertaining to how things are not working properly, or just wanting to update folks on what's the latest thinking, what are things you should be focusing on. That's what we do on an ongoing basis. So while you think of us as a community and economic development, part of it is very focused on preservation and education so that you understand once it's developed, once it's yours, you make sure it stays yours. Because as Kofi said, and as Keith said, in this market, once you lose it, you're not getting it back. Someone's going to come in, they're going to take it, they're going to appreciate it for what it is, and they're going to love it and polish it, and you're going to have a hell of a time trying to get it back. So the thing is, once you get it, make sure it's yours and it stays yours.
Thank you, Wayne. On that note, Matthew will walk us through what HCR does in terms of helping us to renew our properties so we can hold on to them.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Matthew Nelson. I'm a Deputy Commissioner at New York State Homes and Community Renewal, and I am the President of the agency's Office of Community Renewal. In my role, I oversee the local programs. We are an agency of many programs, some that work with developers and some that work with local not-for-profits and community-based organizations as well as municipalities to support the development, but most critically, the preservation of affordable housing. So I have the pleasure of working with groups throughout New York State and many here in New York City, including a number of CDCs and neighborhood preservation program organizations, NPCs, and neighborhood preservation corporations, of which there are many here in the Harlem community that do work to educate homeowners on what opportunities there are and to provide assistance through property management and help in many regards with what Wayne talked about. I also oversee the state's Affordable Housing Corporation program, which is a state-funded program that provides money to organizations, not-for-profits, as well as municipalities to preserve housing through acquisition and rehabilitation of property, to do owner-occupied rehabilitation, and also to do new construction. And obviously the issue before us today is the preservation of the properties that you all live in and how we can bring some funding to the table to rehab and bring those properties back online in a safer and more habitable state. So I'm here to say that we're a willing partner in this conversation, and we are basically the sister entity to HPD, but on a larger scale we cover the state while HPD covers the city. But we do much of the same work. We administer many similar programs using a combination of state, city, and federal resources. And so I'm here in many ways to listen and see how we may be able to become a part of the process for you and help you acquire some resources through our programs. And that can be through the assistance of the preservation corporations here in the community or through AHC and some of the other potential products that we have to offer for preservation and rehabilitation of these properties. So I look forward to the Q&A, and I want to thank the organizers for having us here to participate in this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Matthew. There's a microphone over there, so those who have questions can start Wait. Okay, just so people know. But before that, we're going to do two things. Elsia is going to galvanize us. Okay? So listen very carefully. Elsia is going to give us the perspective from the ground. Because when everything fails, Elsia is the person, the Palante is the organization that we all run to. Once in a while, she will also run to other people for little resources to help her. So Elsia, from that perspective of being the one on the ground and seeing things from where it hurts, can you please put all of this about TILs, ADFCs, and all the acronyms in real human terms for us?
Can you all hear me? So, Kofi, thank you for asking that question. 2 years ago, we started focusing on helping tenants living in the TIL buildings. And I know a lot of you, and you guys needed help, and we've been trying to help you. What we have found is that HPD has not been able to meet their end of the bargain. Of course, there are reasons for it, but it's not just HPD's fault, it's also the tenant's fault. So, I'm going to take you back when I built my tenant association. I knocked on every nonprofit in my community and nobody wanted to help me. It didn't stop us. We lived in deplorable conditions. And what we did was we went and hired an attorney. We opened up bank accounts. We knew better. We needed to know that every building needed to have its own bank account. And we took the landlord to court. But we stayed organized, and the minute that we were organized as a tenant association, HPD joined us. And in fact, Anne-Marie, before we became head of asset manager, she did so much work for us, and we're in debt to you, you know that. We are. But you know, at the end of the day, if the tenants association remains strong in these buildings, we know that we can help you guys become owners. The second thing is, of course, we do recognize that there is a lack of resources. You're not being helped. We know that. And that's why we're here. We're here to help you. We have wonderful relationships with not only HPD, but different agencies, different governmental agencies. And what we have found as we helped a lot of the TIL Tenants Association is that you guys need just basic organizing. Why? Because it's been a long time, and you probably forgot. So we help you guys have the annual tenants associations. We need to empower the tenants association to pay your rent. Just because HPD has not been able to do the rehabilitation doesn't mean that you don't get to pay your rent. I understand, Kofi, it's really hard. I mean, if you live in deplorable conditions and you're being asked to pay your rent and you have no idea when you're going to become owners, you kind of just sit and wait, right? Make sense? But with all of that, of course, comes in two things. One thing is that you get placed on probation, right? And then the second thing is that we get old and then we pass away. And there's so many of those cases that come to us. And clearly we are very concerned. We're concerned that you have not been able to graduate. I think this is a program that was supposed to be 2 to 4 years. And some of you guys I know that have been waiting for 15, 18 years. We know that. So I think this is a great opportunity for us to actually unite as a community, which is why I thank you when I saw the wonderful faces, most of which I recognize, which was pretty neat. Let's get together and let's come up with ways on how we could really work together. I think that if we build the Tenants Association or rebuild the Tenants Association from the ground up, that we can start pushing forward the same way that my tenant association, when we fought our landlord, how we moved forward. Let me tell you something. We moved forward to such an extent that we fired the landlord and the buildings ended up in the Article 7A program. That is the same program that is on the same umbrella as the TIL program, right, Anne-Marie? Or somewhat, it's somewhere, right? And HPD actually committed, I believe, and I might be wrong on this, but I believe it was about $2.something million in the rehabilitation of our property. Now, what did that come with? That came with also that we gave HPD $500,000 from our rent strike. Everybody paid their rents when we were on rent strike to their tenant association, to their treasurer, and when the courts actually handed the buildings over to HPD, it was 3 buildings in one shot. It's never been done before because this was a tenant-initiated lawsuit. We did not wait for HPD to join us. They actually joined us in court. And the first thing we did was, here's our $500,000. We need boilers because we're dying, we're cold, we don't have any heat. So we became partners of HPD. But we also had a very strong background. And of course, since nobody wanted to help me, and being the tenacious group that we are, we said, you know what, screw this, let's build our own thing, let's help our community, let's help our people. So Palante is really about empowerment, about organizing, getting all your ducks in a row, and then getting what it is that we need. So in your case, we need to make you guys owners, right? We need to make sure that we address the issues with the senior citizens that don't have any succession rights. We have to address the issue about the fact that a lot of the tenants association have already depleted their funds, but yet they're being asked to take the children of the sons and daughters of the deceased to court. With what money? So this is an opportunity for us to really look at those cases and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Because I am so tired, Coffee, of hearing older ladies coming to my office saying, my biggest fear is that I die and my son, who is handicapped, is going to be evicted. I mean, that hits you. In one building that have been waiting 18 years to get any rehab, and 18 whole years. These guys, the treasurer resigned because of health conditions about a month and a half ago. He passed away. So here he is, he served. He sat on the board. Every month, he supplied that report to HPD, and then he passes away. And now we have to go and address his children in that apartment. So I think this is an opportunity for us to have real discussions around that while we go find the money. And this time, the entire group have money, so I know you guys are going to be able to have your buildings. But we need to organize, and we need to start addressing today the succession rights. We need to address today the immediate housing code violations that your board does not have the money to do.
Thank you. The interest, the interest in what we are doing is so great that we have representing Borough President Gebrue's office, Rosalba Rodriguez. Where is Rosalba? Just raise your hand so we can acknowledge you. Welcome. And then from the City Comptroller's office, Nina Saxon. Where is Nina? There she is. So, see, all the power brokers are in this room. All the people controlling the purses related to this issue are in this room. So just to give, so they can have something graphic to take back to them. Let's see by show of hands, how many in this auditorium here, how many are living in Till buildings right now? Show of hands. Ooh, look at that. Assemblyman right. Can you get key to 10? I want you to attend for a second. Let's do it again. These hands raised are people living in Till buildings right now. Now keep your hands up. And those who are living in ADFCs, add your hands to that. Wow. So we are all very, very concerned, and this is real. This is very real. Thank you. So with that, we still have to see Keith up. But before we open up, this is why I was trying to get the questions to begin to line up. Let's do it 6 at a time. 6 at a time, please. But while you are lining up the